Welcome. I'm Harmony Slater, your host of the Finding Harmony podcast. Over the past 20 years, I've taught thousands of yoga teachers and students to explore the intersection between ancient wisdom and modern everyday life, using mind-body practices to heal, awaken, and manifest their dreams from the inside out. This podcast is a sanctuary for those feeling overwhelmed by life's challenges. Are you ready to jump in and discover how these challenges aren't actually in the way, but are the way to finding harmony? Let's invite the magic back in. Well, hello and welcome. I'm your host, Harmony, and this is the Finding Harmony podcast. I'm so happy you found us today because today I'm connecting with an amazing author, Lisa Kessler. She is the best-selling author of many page-turning paranormal fiction novels. She's a 2-time San Diego Book Award winner for Best Published Fantasy, Sci-Fi, and Horror Novel, as well as the Best Published Romance. Her books have won many awards, and this is her kind of not secret life, but part of her journey. And today, we're not here to talk about her excellence in writing her fiction novels, which we could have talked a lot about, but we're here to talk about her first nonfiction book, The Practical Tarot Method. Learn to read tarot cards intuitively. And this was something that really sparked my interest because I love the tarot and I love using the cards to connect into my intuition. And I was really curious about how this book teaches people to read the tarot cards and how Lisa herself uses the tarot not only to connect into her intuition for maybe guidance, but how she's used it to create these many best-selling paranormal fiction novels and how you can learn to use the tarot in your life too. And one thing that always intimidated me about kind of doing formal tarot readings is having to memorize a lot of different messages or meanings about the cards. And we're going to get into this a little bit about how her method is different and what she teaches and how she teaches people to understand and use the tarot in their life is quite a different model. But that there's a few things you can understand and connect to in the symbols and in what an image evokes, and also in the progression of the suits, the wands, the cups, the swords, the pentacles, what each of these different suits mean and how they progress, and understanding that progression gives you insight into reading tarot. So she's kind of demystifying the practice of tarot reading, which is really fascinating and a lot of fun. And so I'm sure you are going to love meeting Lisa as much as I did. And hopefully you walk away with not only ideas on how to read tarot cards for yourself, but also feeling inspired to really commit to your passion project, because her story of how she became a best-selling author is incredible. And it's such an amazing journey, and I felt super motivated listening to her tale of being a mother and becoming a best-selling author at the same time, and how she also uses the tarot to give her insights or clues or messages about some of the characters she's writing about in her books. So really fun interview. And I can't wait to share it with you. So let's just get started here. And I'd love to hear your takeaways. Also, please send me a message and let me know what you thought. Hi, welcome to the Finding Harmony podcast. I'm your host, Harmony, and I am here today with Lisa Kessler, who is the author of a beautiful book called The Practical Tarot Magic, Learning to Read Tarot Cards Intuitively. And she also has an amazing practical tarot deck to go with it. And she's been reading tarot cards professionally for nearly 20 years. and doing readings for clients all over the world. Another super fun fact is Lisa is the author of 50 books that are best-selling paranormal romance novels and thrillers, and I'm excited to talk about those also today.
I'm an open book. We could talk about whatever you want.
Welcome. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me on.
Amazing. I'm so glad to connect with you. So, I was doing some little pre-episode research and I was like, what is this paranormal romance novels and thrillers? What does that even mean? And I went on your website and then I was reading the titles and I was like, oh, I know exactly what this means.
Right?
But it was kind of funny because I am obsessed with Vampire Diaries.
Okay.
I am loving it. And that's kind of like a
It
paranormal
is.
romance thriller
Yes.
TV show.
For sure.
So, what inspired you to write all of these incredible books, like novels?
Well, that's kind of a woo-woo story too. So I actually worked in my family business for 25 years, right out of school, and we made hospital window blinds. And I used to write for fun. I wrote every night. I was a huge Anne Rice Vampire Chronicles fan. And I know, right? And
I
so
love
I
it.
spent lots of the latter half of the 90s writing in a Yahoo group with a whole bunch of friends, and we would write our own vampires until the next vampire novel came out. And at that time, I had no idea that I was practicing for my future life. No clue. It was just fun. And I did it every night. I was in a not so happy marriage, so it was a great escape. And so that was what I was doing. And I went to a trade show for work selling window shades to hospitals. And it was in New Orleans. And I was in New Orleans and I was always kind of a woo woo person anyway. So I thought, well, I have to get a palm reading because I'm in New Orleans. So I go in a shop and I get my palm read, and she was fantastic. She knew I had two kids, my daughter's older, all this stuff. But she said something that made me go, what? But she said, you will have two great loves in your life. And at that point in time, I was married to my high school sweetheart, my only love. And it was not a happy marriage. And I just thought, what? Two? What? And so my brain was buzzing from all that. And as we're walking out, she says, can I ask you one more thing? And I said, sure. And she said, do you write? Are you a writer? And I said, no, I sell hospital window shades. And then I thought about it and I said, well, I write for fun every night, but I'm not a writer. And she smiled and she said, oh, you're going to be a famous writer someday. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
And so I left the shop and I'm thinking, I couldn't write anything long enough to be a book. I was a voracious reader. It wasn't just Anne Rice. I read everything. And I just thought, I couldn't write anything long enough to be a book, could I? But I couldn't let the idea go. And so 6 months later, my first book was written, Nightwalker.
Wow.
And it took me years to get it published. I actually wrote another 3 novels before I ever got that one published. So if you're out there and you have written and you're putting books out, it takes a while. Do not give up. But anyway, so it took a while, but once she lit that spark and the faucet was turned, I have put out a whole bunch of books ever since then. And she did change my life. In 2012, I stopped working full time and I started writing full time. And it just changed everything from that one reader who said, can I ask you something? So I wish I knew her name so I could tell her and send her signed books, but I didn't ever have her name. But anyway, it was life changing.
That's amazing. But also, I have another question related because I love this. I love these stories where it's like the impossible becomes possible.
Right.
Like dreams come true.
Yeah, it wasn't even on my radar. So
yeah. But you were already doing it.
Yes.
And I love that. It was already like a passion or a love for you that you were already doing.
I had no idea. See, Years later, I got to meet Ray Bradbury. That's another story, but he believed that to be a storyteller, to be a writer, you have to write 600,000 words that are pretty crappy to find your storyteller, because school teaches you to write a complete sentence. So everyone
Right.
finishes their book and they think, oh, it's ready to be published because all my sentences are there. But you don't really know how to tell a story. And so when all of this happened, it was so bizarre because I realized later that I had been getting all of those practice words out for 5 or 6 years of writing every day.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that I was practicing for the future. So I'm always telling clients too, do something, follow your passion, because it doesn't have to make you money right now. So often in our society, everyone's telling you if it's not making money, it's a waste of time. But a lot of times your passions are leading you to your true path and you don't even realize it. So don't stop just because it's not making you money, because it could be your entire future and you just don't know it yet,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, that's incredible. It reminds me, my husband's a painter and
I see the beautiful paintings behind you. Yeah.
he paints every day and has been doing it forever without any clients or
Right.
anything happening, just because he loves painting and he has a master's in painting and is really good at it. He just does it because he loves the work and he
Right.
loves doing it, and it really puts him in that kind of flow state.
Yes.
And then just the last few years, people have been commissioning him for all these different paintings. And he's, oh, this is amazing. I'm actually making money doing something I love now.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So nothing is ever a waste of time just because it's not
Yeah.
making money. A lot of times we're honing something that we don't even realize we're doing, and it will bring you to your path at the perfect moment, because divine timing, it's going to come out at the perfect time for you. And maybe when he first got his degree, the timing would have been way off. So you
Yeah.
just keep doing it. And, when the right opportunity unfolds, you're like, oh my gosh, now I'm ready. So I love that story. I'm happy for your husband.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Usually he's here on the podcast, but he's away right now.
Oh, okay. Well, tell him I said that's really cool. My mom
I will.
was a watercolorist, an international
Oh,
watercolorist. She got juried into China and all this stuff. And
wow.
she did not discover that until she was 55. So it's never too
Oh,
late.
I love these stories. This is so good because, yeah, I think we often feel like, oh, it's too late for me.
Right.
Nothing, nothing exciting is going to happen, or my dreams are over. There's something that happens in middle age
Mhm.
that feels very final, like you're entering, I don't know, the downhill of
Right.
life.
And it's not
So,
true. Society
yeah.
gives you this story that you're supposed to shut up and go sit in the corner and knit. But that is only if you hand them your power to do that. You can
Yeah.
continue growing. There's never a stopping point. I do manifesting coaching, and I'm always telling people you can grow or you can shrink. And you get
Yeah.
to decide. You have free will. So don't let someone else make that decision for you. I have a client who is a fantastic writer. She's so amazing. And she wanted to start a new business, like coaching other writers. But she was feeling that feeling. But am I too old to start a business and learn Facebook
Yeah.
ads and all this stuff? And I told her, well, it's up to you, because you can either grow or shrink. And what do you want? And she chose
Mhm.
growth, and she's doing amazing. So and
Yeah.
she's much older than I am. So it is never too late.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's incredible, and, just those stories alone, I think, are so inspiring, and just, yeah, finding your dream or finding what brings you alive or brings you joy, and keep doing it no matter, without attachments, very yogic, without attachment to the results or the
Right.
rewards or the outcomes. Just do the work for the love of the work.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And when you listen to your intuition and you follow it, sometimes we all hesitate because we're human and we're like, I don't know, why am I doing this? But it always works out for your highest good when you follow that intuition. My tarot deck would have never existed ever if I hadn't have followed this weird progression of my life, but I was teaching tarot for writers because I've been doing that for years,
Oh, wow.
because I use tarot to help my write all my books. I use it every book that I'm
Oh,
writing. I use tarot. Yeah. And
I love
yeah,
this. I want to
yeah.
write a book and use tarot to help me
Yes.
do it.
Oh, please do,
Tell me
because
the methodology.
well, it's a 4-week long course, so I can't tell you on the podcast.
Okay.
But what I can tell you is that the people have been using tarot forever to get messages from their higher self, from their intuition, from the universe, all that kind of thing. But when you are writing or doing anything creative, music, art, whatever creative thing, we can only create when we can move our ego out of the situation. For writers, what happens is we start writing and then we start going, will readers like this? Will my editor like this? Is this marketable? What's selling on Amazon? And pretty soon you can't write a word. So tarot cards can get you out of your head, because if you are willing, you can shuffle, have the intention, and go, what happens next? And pull a card.
Mm.
And that first inkling, that is what happens next. And you're out of the way. All of the pressure of publishing is out of the way, and you can just follow that intuition. And so that's what I teach with tarot for writers, and we use it to figure out past, present, future for our characters. For
Oh,
character
cool.
development, you can figure out what are their wounds, because you have to have somewhere for them to go. So we do it all with tarot cards. So one of my last tarot for writers classes, we finished the class and everybody was like, you need to write this class in a book. And I thought, well, I don't write nonfiction. That is out of my wheelhouse. I don't think so. But once again, they planted that seed. I'm like, well, I would love to write a tarot book for people to read intuitively, because when I started, I didn't connect with tarot. I loved tarot and I collected decks, but for the life of me, I could not memorize the books. I couldn't.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
I'm exactly in that spot.
okay. Well, the practical tarot method is for you.
Okay. I mean, because yeah, like you do the cards and sometimes you know the layouts and you can do that, but then when you turn the cards over, you're like, this is amazing. And then you need a book to tell you what it means or to like give you ideas for what
Right,
it means,
right. And
right?
I feel like by then you have lost the intuitive connection. I think that
Yeah.
when you turn over that card, the initial thing that pops in your head, the initial artwork that you connect with, that's your message. And if you get too hung up in reading the book, it distances you from your intuition instead of bringing you closer. So, in the practical tarot method, and the way I teach it is all about cycles. The minor arcana is just a cycle and it mirrors our life. So, we always want our life to go from 0 to 10 in a neat stairway, and it never does. It's always, yay, I'm great. Oh, I'm horrible. Yay, look, I'm getting ahead. Oh, now I'm behind. Life, that's just how life unfolds. And the minor arcana of tarot mirrors it. So, the aces are always this hopeful beginning, yay. And the twos are always, okay, I need to make a choice and a decision. And the threes are, maybe I need some help from my friends. And the fours are are usually you shrinking again, going, oh my God, what did I do? And then the fives are usually chaos because you're halfway through, and so tarot, once you recognize that the cycles are following your life, then really the
Yeah.
only thing you have to memorize is that cups is water, which is your emotions, and so that's only four
What
things.
are swords?
Oh, swords is your mind. Yeah, because it's
Yeah, your
air.
mind.
It's air. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so much of the time, our mind freezes us up, but it's not real. It's air.
Mhm.
So that's how I
Right.
remember. So, but then you only have four things to remember. And the major arcana is like a hero's journey. You
Mhm.
start with the quest and the fool, and by the
Mhm.
end, it's the world, and you've completed whatever it was you were manifesting. And now your whole world is different, and you get to decide what's next? We never finish. So
this is so great. I love this explanation. Okay, I have another question then. What are wands? What element are wands?
Wands are fire. And if you think about fire, it's passion, it's taking action. So these are always actions, projects, things like that for wands. So you think about a wand makes something happen, a magic wand. So, so it's fire. Let's do it, right?
Yeah.
It's your passion.
And then pentacles must be the earth.
Pentacles is the earth, and they look like coins. They look like money. So it's your health and money cards. It's everything in the material world, earth.
That's incredible. Okay, so let's just go back for a second, and then we're going to talk more about this methodology, because I feel like I have a whole new window into tarot.
Yay!
But this book came about because you had kind of a life crisis, a health crisis. Your mother passed away. You were in a very down place.
Yeah, I've never been that far down before. That was rough. I was having all these health problems. I mean, for anyone listening, I'm an open book. So it's perimenopause can try and kill you. If you are between 40 and 50, your body suddenly can go, "Hey, I hate you." So anyway,
I think this is an experience that many of my listeners are also experiencing.
Yeah, and you have to advocate for yourself. I still believe that they probably would have let me die had I not advocated. I actually did a meditation at one point, and it was Archangel Gabriel who was like, "You need to take up your sword and shield. There's no one else who's going to save you." And I was like, whoa. And that changed everything with me fighting back. Like, I went and had bleed-ins at the doctor's office because I'm like, someone save me. I was going to the ER so often. And by the end, when they finally decided, okay, you can have a hysterectomy, I was too anemic for surgery, and I had to go have iron infusions for 6 weeks. They shouldn't let you get this close to dying in order to help you. So anyway, women out there, be an advocate. You have to fight. But when all that happened, I didn't realize until it was happening to me that long-term anemia can bring on generalized anxiety disorder, where your brain is just churning all the time. It felt like I was in a constant state of fighting with my brain, because my brain's saying you're dying, and I'm like, well, actually, alive. And your brain's like, no, you're dying. So during all of that, my writing screeched to a halt. I couldn't create anything because my brain was so busy thinking all the time. And I thought, wow, my career's over. I actually, for a while, I used to go write at Panera before the pandemic. And for a while, I went and worked there because I felt like they all knew me already because I used to go there and write books, but I can't write. So I really felt like, wow, my career's over and I'm working at Panera. Go me,
Not you're like, wow, this took a quick left turn.
Right.
How did I get here?
Yeah, it was horrible. But what pulled me out was that meditation with Archangel Gabriel, where he's like, you can't ignore this. You have to fight. And so I did. And during that time, my mom was also battling stage 4 lung cancer, and she never smoked. It was a really rough time. And so I had surgery. And then 10 days later, my mom died. It was just a lot. And I felt, okay, I don't know what's happening with my life or how I'm going to be able to get this back. And luckily, I kept working at Panera for a little while because I felt like, well, I have to make money for I have to do my part. But I did find a group of writers who inspired me to, and we started doing Zooms during the pandemic so that we could focus, and it got me back on the train, and I actually started writing again a lot. And tarot cards made it possible because when you sit at the computer going, I don't know what to write, you can pull a card.
Yeah. This is why I like this idea, because I'm always when I think of writing a book, I'm like, nothing is happening.
Right. Well,
but there's lots in there.
And you can save yourself with tarot cards if you're a creative. They can really help because unlike, I love oracle cards. I have a gajillion oracle card decks. I love them. But oracle cards are usually themed to a certain thing. Whereas
Mm.
tarot cards cover all the elements of your life, all the aspects of your life. So for writing characters and things, it can really help because I have a hard time conceptualizing how people feel about money. And
Yeah.
so I can pull a tarot card and suddenly get something who is a Four of Pentacles. And I'm like, oh, she feels like she's never had enough. She has to save up forever, and all this stuff. And
Mm.
somebody who's a workaholic because they're afraid they could lose it all. And that's something that I probably wouldn't have come up with on my own. But tarot cards
Right.
can give you a different aspect than what you would really think about. And so through teaching tarot for writers, they, like that palm reader, they ignited this thought of, could I put my course in a book? And I actually shopped it. And for anybody out there who thinks, oh, this will be easy, it is so not easy,
No.
but it's worth it if you don't give up. Because when I first shopped the book, I had 3 publishers who were very interested, lost my agent through it because she used fiction and I wanted her to shop a
Oh, right.
nonfiction and she didn't have the connections for that. So we broke up, which was very sad. So I was
Oh.
on my own trying to do this fiction thing that I'd never done before. And the 3 publishers who were interested, no one made an offer. So I shelved it and thought, well, I tried. Maybe the timing's not right. Da, da, da. And meanwhile, Kickstarter started to rise for fiction authors to do special editions of their books and all this stuff. And I kept thinking about that tarot. And I'm like, man, I would love a diverse tarot deck because since everything went on to Zoom, I read for people in New Zealand, Australia,
Mhm.
UK, everywhere. And
Mhm.
having a more diverse clientele also made me notice that all of my tarot cards were extremely white. And I just feel like everyone should have a card, at least one, where they go, hey, it's me,
Mhm.
and none of my decks, there are some, I love the Light Seers deck by Chris Ann. It has a lot more
Mhm.
diversity. However, it doesn't have, people in a wheelchair or people with
Right.
glasses or, anything like that.
Yeah.
And I just felt like we could have something where everybody can find themselves somewhere in the deck. And I reached out to my cover designer who does some of my
Yeah.
books that I do indie myself and asked her if she would do it. And she goes, oh, that's kind of far out of my wheelhouse, but I know this great illustrator. I'll introduce you. And that was how I
Oh.
met Holly Carton, who did the art for Practical Tarot. And I'm sure you can see it online, but they put some of the cards right on the cover.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
mean, she just did such a beautiful job, and she didn't know anything about tarot. And I've never made a deck, so I put it on Kickstarter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the first time it didn't fund. And I could have quit then. I could have gone, Lisa, you have wasted too much time on this tarot.
Right. Yeah. You're like, "Okay."
But instead, I meditated and I was talking to my angels and guides. And I'm like, should I just shelve this? It's taking up a lot of time and energy and it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And they were like, no, it has to happen. So then I thought, well, maybe the timing was off. So I waited 3 months and I put it back out and I asked for more money the second time and it funded. What? Yeah,
Wow.
so we did it on Kickstarter, and once I had the deck, I went back to the publishers who had been interested in the book, and in the end, I went with Beyond Words. They actually published The Secret, which changed my life 20 years
Oh,
ago,
yeah,
and so
yeah.
I was like, "Oh my gosh, it all comes full circle." And I loved
Yeah.
working with them. They just nailed everything that I asked. I wanted the Practical Tarot method to be more of a conversation instead of a textbook, and that's how I wrote it. I'm a fiction writer, so I tried to make it entertaining and engaging instead of this science class that you walk into and you're like, "Okay, that was English. I read it all, but I don't know what what that meant." So they took so much artwork from the deck and put it in
Yeah.
the book. It's just
Oh,
inviting.
beautiful.
And so I'm very happy with how it all turned out. But again, 10 years ago, not in a billion years was it on my radar that I'm going to make a tarot deck and write a book of my class. So,
Yeah.
for anyone listening, just follow that little nudge, just take action on it and see what happens. Because now that it's out there, I'm seeing, people doing readings on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok with the deck. And
Ah.
it is just, it's the coolest thing to see people connecting with it. It just is the best. So, highly recommend that you trust that intuitive nudge and just go for it, even if it seems miles out of your comfort zone.
What I love is that I think a lot of people get this part sort of mixed up, as if it doesn't happen right away, they think, "Oh, like, the universe is saying I shouldn't do this," or
Right.
"The signs aren't there. I'm not being guided in this direction." And you really point out, like, I don't know, there was something about this inner alignment that you had and checking in with yourself, your intuition,
Right.
your heart. Is this really still, here for me? And
Right.
not giving up. You've spoke about just the ability to keep going with something even though it looks like at first
Exactly.
it's not gonna happen.
Exactly. And again, you have to get your ego out of the equation, because ego wise, when it didn't fund the first time, it was only $900 away from funding. And on Kickstarter, it's all or nothing. So that meant all those
Oh.
thousands of dollars to do this tarot deck were gone because of
Mhm.
900. And there were people who were nudging me going, just get a credit card and do the 900 yourself and make the deck. But I felt if it's supposed to happen, I shouldn't have to do that. So I didn't. I let it fail. And that hit, ego wise, here I have, at that time, 45 books out, and I can't make this go. I could have crawled in a hole and cried and felt like a big loser.
Yeah.
But instead, and I did feel like that initially. You can't help it. You're human.
Yeah, of
But I
course.
meditated on it, and I'm like, should this just go away, or, what is happening? I thought it would work. And just the feeling that I got was it wasn't time. And
Mhm.
then my husband figured out that if it had funded way over what I asked, everything would have been fine. But he said, if it funded for the amount that you asked for, you didn't include money for shipping. And I was like,
Oh.
oh, perhaps I was being protected. So it went
Yeah.
against, common sense to ask for more the second time, but I did ask for more and it went. So then in hindsight, I'm like, oh, the universe was saving me from myself. But when you're in it, it's hard to know that. And if I had given
Yeah.
up, I never would have known. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's good to check in. If everything is going against something, then
Yeah.
it might be the universe telling you no. So if
Yeah.
no one had backed the project, that would be a big,
Right.
okay, I guess the universe doesn't need this right now. But since
Right.
so many people did and it got so close, it's more like the
Mhm.
universe telling you, do some math.
Yeah, do some math.
Yeah.
You forgot
You forgot
something.
something really important, so we're not going to get you across the finish line. That's not a finish line you want to cross, Lisa.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been way more than $900.
Exactly, exactly. I would have been in a mess. Oh my gosh. But in hindsight, it's really easy to see that sometimes obstacles are course corrections. But when it's
Mhm.
happening to you, it's really easy to let your ego and your feelings overwhelm everything, and you end up losing your path. So I'm a big believer in don't give up.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And I'm curious, I mean, you're obviously very spiritually attuned and connected and like believing in guides and
Mhm.
connected to guides and energy. And I'm curious because like different people sort of feel or intuit or connect to guides in different ways. I have a friend who literally sees
Oh, nice.
like beings.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, that's amazing.
Right.
I wanna see different beings on different levels, you know? But some people maybe, like, hear things or, have maybe just, like, a knowing in their body, like, a feeling. How would you describe this intuition? Like, how can we connect to intuition and know that it's actually from this sort of source or from our highest self or
Right.
God or whatever you want to call it?
That is, it's a great question. And that, for me, when I started down my spiritual path, that was the hardest part for me, because you have to trust your inner knowing. And once you do, everything opens up. But sadly, we want it to open up first so that we can
Yeah.
trust it. And it just doesn't work that way. For instance, when I started down my spiritual path, it was pretty much when I first started writing. I went to the palm reader, and I was always a spiritual woo woo person, but I didn't have any real experience. I was still collecting tarot decks at that time, but I couldn't really read them. But I wanted there to be more to the world than what we see, right?
And New Orleans is such a like
Yes,
spirit like destination. It's like the mecca of,
exactly.
voodoo
Yeah,
and oracles and witches and all of that energy. I think
yeah,
there's so much there,
for
right?
sure.
Vampires.
Yes, all the I went on the vampire tours and the cemetery
So did
tours,
I.
and yeah, yeah, you have to if you go to New Orleans. But in doing that, that palm reading really opened up, because 6 months later I had a book. And so then I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, so she was not just entertaining me. There was something to it. And so then, of course, I wanted to know more. So when I joined a psychic circle, what I was hoping, the woman leading it, I kept going, if you get something from your intuition, do you smell oranges? Do you feel
Yeah,
something
right.
tighten up? I mean, and she kept telling me, no, you just know. Like, no, I need lights flashing. I need something to know that it's not just me. And
Yeah.
she said, you have to trust that it's not you in order to get the messages. And I was like, dang
Mm.
it, dang it. Because I think it's human nature. We want a recipe. And if we do this and this and this, we get this. But spiritual energy doesn't work that way. It is always there, and it's your choice to honor it and put your trust in it, and that's hard. And so for me, that was the hardest part of my spiritual path. And when I start working with people, I always tell them, like, anyone who's listening, when I'm talking about guides and angels, if you're rolling your eyes and going, what? It is a-okay. That's okay. I just call it a bridge too far for now. So,
Yeah.
like, when I started and I'm in this, psychic circle and they're talking about this stuff, I would be like, ooh, bridge too far. And then, 6 months down the road, all of a sudden I'm like, hey, where'd that bridge go? Hey, it's on fire back there. I have crossed that bridge. So, you don't have to, make this concrete decision that this is not real, because obviously it is for the person who's, tapping into it. And
Mhm.
it's a-okay for you not to be ready for it yet. So it's
Yeah.
a bridge too far today. That's fine. In 6 months, you might realize that you're 4 bridges past that one. No, but
You didn't even
you
notice.
didn't even know. Yep. I have a lot of clients who call me like the gateway drug to spiritualism, because
Yeah.
because I just feel like you don't have to accept everything instantly. And that doesn't
Mhm.
mean that you never will. So it's
Mm.
okay to say, wow, today that is a bridge too far. For a long time, Reiki for me was a bridge too far. I'm just like, really? Really? Energy healing from a distance? But finally, I felt like I might be ready for a Reiki attunement. And then I did
Yeah.
it and I was like, oh my gosh, wow. And so then I did Reiki too. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I can Reiki my dogs. And I mean, I have seen my dogs just get better. Wow. And so, anyway, that bridge way back there. So don't feel like if something doesn't resonate with you
Mhm.
today, you don't have to write it off as that it never will. It just isn't for you today. That's fine. It's just a
Yeah.
bridge too far for now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting, like, what we allow ourselves to be open to as
Yes.
far as possible realities. It's
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
But I do wish that there was, something, because, like, for me, of all the Claires, I seem to be claircognizant. And so for me, I just know, which makes it
Yeah.
very difficult. In the beginning, it was really weird when I was doing tarot readings, because it was so obvious to me of what the message was
Mhm.
that it didn't seem psychic at all. And yet the people on
Right.
the other side of the table are like, whoa, what? And I'm thinking, well, it makes so much sense. I mean, it's just plain, but over the years, I realized, okay, it's only plain to me, not to the
Yeah.
person. So, if you're claircognizant, it just seems like the story is unfolding, and obviously that's it. And so it took years to really figure out that, okay, this is the universe talking to me. This is my intuition, because there
Yeah.
isn't like a magic button that you hit and you go, okay, here's my connection, right? So you really
Mhm.
do have to take that leap of faith at some point.
Yeah, it's interesting because I also have a lot of claircognizance, and sometimes I will just perceive things
Yes.
about people, especially, like, doing healing sessions or
Hmm.
working with people. You kinda drop into that level
Yes.
of, like, conscious connection, and sometimes I feel a little bit like because with that
Hmm.
knowingness, you're sort of like, maybe I'm making this up."
Yeah. And it seems like, do I even tell them this? It's so obvious.
Yeah, and also sometimes I get really kind of personal
Hmm.
things, and I also kinda don't wanna tell them
Right.
because I feel like this feels really too personal for me to know or talk about.
Right.
I'm not sure we really wanna go there.
Yeah. Are we this close of friends? I don't know.
Yeah, if you bring it up, great, let's talk about it.
Right.
Like, it almost feels like an invasion of someone's, I don't know, emotional privacy or something, or, like, historical privacy
Right.
or something, sometimes.
Sometimes, but I feel like if they have, like, I often talk about money is just energy, it's an energy
Mhm.
exchange. And if they
Yeah,
have paid for something and they made that energy exchange, that's their free will saying, here you go, please help me. So
yeah.
I tend to not feel like it's such an invasion of privacy when I
Yeah,
get this
that's good.
message, because the energy exchange
Yeah.
already happened. So their guides and angels are, trying to give them this message. So often, back in the day when I would read tarot cards at a metaphysical shop, people would wander in and they would go, I've never had one of these before, but for some reason I just felt like I should. And I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
oh, your spirit guides have something to tell you and you're not listening. Okay. And here we go. But that
Yeah.
is kind of how it works sometimes, is that your
Mhm.
spirit guides and angels, we don't hear them with our ears. And so if they're trying to get you messages and you keep talking yourself out of it or not listening, then,
Mhm.
they might reach out to a third party who is more open to it so that they can get
Mhm.
you the message.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I actually look at, like, almost every conversation I have that way.
Yes. Uh-huh.
I'm like, "What are you trying to tell me?"
Uh-huh. Yeah. Why did we connect just now?
Yeah, "Why did that person say that to me?"
Right.
"Oh, this is a message, okay."
Okay, I hear you. Hear you, universe, heard.
So, let's talk a bit more about the practical tarot method book and your methodology. So, if I were to get this
Mhm.
book and open it up and start using it rather than like having to memorize what all of the different cards mean because like also different decks have slightly different
Yes. Uh-huh.
descriptions and it can be quite intense and some of them are quite long and others
Right.
are short
Mhm.
and I think that's what holds a lot of people up from actually doing their own reading
Right.
or feeling like they're competent in it. And then you see those people on TikTok or Instagram, they're just like going like this, and then they're like a card flips out
Right.
and they like, "Oh, this," and then they get tell you a message and then
Right.
they keep going.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Right? And you're like, "Whoa, that's amazing." It's like a whole story, like a running story that they're doing, just tuned in to what each card is like signifying and saying. And I feel like they've read your book, obviously, because they're like tapped into
Right.
it on like an intuitive level rather than a logical level.
Right, exactly. And if you had the book there and you started reading it, I don't start with the traditional card meanings. They are in there later in the book.
Mhm.
I start with symbolism, with colors, with different animal symbols and what they usually mean. But I'm quick to also remind people that you always get the card you need. I don't know how that works. I just know that it works. You always get the card you need. Even when I've done readings for people who are non-believers who sit down and say, they told me I had to get a reading. I don't believe in this stuff. I had one man who came to get a reading once, and he sat down, and as soon as he sat down, I was like, oh, non-believer. Okay. And then I always ask, what's your intention? What do you need to know right now? And he said, well, I don't believe in any of this, and I've never had a reading before, but I am worried about my work, and I think I should look for another job, and I don't know why. I just thought, I'd see what you had to say. So I was like, okay. So I shuffled and I spread the cards out, and I just felt like he should draw them himself. So I told him to just run your hand over the top of the cards and pull out the ones you feel like you need. And this man, I have shuffled, I have fanned out the cards, and he goes, how many cards? I said, how about 5? And he goes to the beginning of the fan and takes the first 5 cards. And I think, okay, dude, you're not even trying. You didn't even feel the deck. But I put the deck away. We spread out his 5 cards. And as we turned them over, the hair on my arms was standing up because every single card was pentacles.
Oh,
What were the
wow.
chances of that after I had shuffled everything, and all 5 cards that were just the front
Wow.
5 were pentacles? And I thought, this is impossible. I don't even know what the odds would be, but he got exactly the cards he needed, and he left a little shaken because he was surprised too. How is that possible that I told him, you always get the
Wow.
cards you need? And I think that it's probably your spirit guides and angels guide you
Mhm.
to take the card you need. I don't know for sure, but you always get
Mhm.
the card you need. So in the book, I talk a lot about how even though unicorns typically mean miracles, magic, purity,
Mhm.
clearing out what no longer serves you, being focused on your highest good. That would be a traditional meanings of a unicorn. But let's
Mhm.
say that for you, unicorns always make you think of your aunt because she has this giant unicorn collection. So if you
Mhm.
turn over a card and see that unicorn and think, oh my God, how is my aunt? Call her. That is your message. Your message is not the traditional meaning. That is
Right.
your intuition at work. That is the magic of
Mm.
tarot cards, is that if you're conscious, if you're really present when you turn over that card, that first thing that you see and that first inkling that pops in your head,
Mhm.
that's why you pulled that card. So when you read the practical tarot method, I try to give you a
Mhm.
framework with typically what the colors mean, what the animals might mean, or the different flowers, or a rainbow,
Mhm.
or stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I'm quick to tell you that, again, that if a bear means your dad and you flip over a card and see a bear and go, oh my God, how's my dad? Call him. That's why you drew it. So
Nothing esoteric, very straightforward.
exactly. Sometimes it's literal, and that is
Yeah.
it's a valid reading. And then
Yeah.
when we get further into the book and you get these traditional meanings of the cards, I also made a journal meditation tip for each card so that
Oh,
you can really figure out what that card means to you. Because if you
nice.
have a personal connection to the cards, it's not going to mean the traditional meaning, and that is fine. This is what this
Right.
card is for you, and you will only draw it when you need that message.
Mm.
So I have manifesting tips for every card. If you're trying to manifest something and you pull with the intention of, what can I do today to get me closer to that dream? you'll
Yeah.
find a tip in there.
Okay, let's try one. I have a
Yeah.
tarot deck, and let's
Okay.
say I want to manifest something.
Okay.
Do I have to say it, or can I just like keep it a
You
secret?
you can keep it a secret, but you just know what your intention is when you're pulling. You can leave it as, what should I do next to manifest what you want or whatever if you
Okay.
don't want to share.
Okay. Okay, I have a clear intention. Okay. Yeah. Maybe what should I do next to grow my business? Like manifest more growth.
Okay.
That's what I want to
Yeah.
manifest.
Good.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So then I should just pick a card randomly.
Whichever one feels like
Okay.
the right one to you.
Okay. I got the Page of Pentacles.
Oh, I love that for you. Okay, let me see what the manifesting
then-
tip is in the book. All right.
Yeah.
Pages are always young energy, so it's like your inner child,
Okay.
and it's making things fun. So let's see, for your manifesting tip for the Page of Pentacles, you have laid your plans, but did you include fun and play? Enjoy every day and each step of the path you're traveling. Do not put happiness on hold until the dream is accomplished. Life is the journey, not the destination. Tap into your inner child's energy to make this work into a game in order to keep your vibration up even when obstacles get in your way. And that idea of making it a game makes the scary parts of pushing for growth more fun. So because when we talk about growth, maybe you're going to grow through ads. So maybe you need to make your ads more fun. What did 10-year-old Harmony, what did you love? And figure out, try putting little emojis of, if a unicorn was your thing, put little
More
unicorn
emojis.
put little unicorn emojis in there, because I'll tell you what it will do. It will attract other people who love unicorns, and you will build your business of clients who really resonate with you. Well, then it makes it more fun, like a game, instead of this stressful thing of, I need to increase my business.
Yeah, that message really was perfect.
Yay, good. Yeah.
Because my energy today was all about like my to-do list and all the things that I have to do, and not even about just growing the business, but just like what a burden life is today.
Yeah.
So it was good. It was like, oh, just remember to have fun and make it playful and have a good time.
Exactly. It doesn't need to be so serious. We make it so serious, and that we have to do everything right and perfect, and you don't, and sometimes when you get those page cards, it's a little nudge from the universe to look at your life through your 8-year-old eyes. 8-year-old you would be going, oh my God, we live here? What? 8-year-old you would be, I get to work from home? Oh my God, it's the best. And as soon as you do that, you can almost feel your energetic vibration going, and you're going, oh my God, I'm living my dream life. What? And then the thought of expanding it is so much more exciting and fun, because you want to feel more of that, right? Oh my gosh, I've already done so much. Of course I can do more.
Yeah, I love that. And exactly what you're saying is so important too, because when it doesn't feel fun or it feels like a burden or a hardship, then you don't actually, that's like the unconscious block, right? Because you don't want to do something that feels terrible.
Right. Well, and
even though you're telling yourself you do, right?
You tell yourself you have to. That's different. And when your vibration gets down into that level, that law of attraction, you're not being punished. It's just matching your energy. And when your energy is, oh, I have so much to do, the universe is, oh, well, here's a flat tire. And here's some extra things, oh, your computer won't boot. Yay. Because you're not being punished. The universe thinks this is what you want. Like attracts like. So, so if you catch yourself in that headspace where you're like, oh, I have so much to do, it's time to go, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky. I get to write. I tell that a lot, because when I'm in the middle of the book, I'm like, oh, I don't want to. Maybe I should go do the dishes. So then I have to remember to reframe it. Oh my gosh, I get to write.
Yeah, I'm so curious. You had 2 young kids and you're
Mhm.
writing all these books.
Right.
Where did you find the time? People must ask you this all the time. How do you how do you have a practice or a discipline of writing?
Well, when my kids were younger, it was a lot harder. I would usually write in the middle of the night, like from 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. I was a night owl, so I would just write
Yeah.
because the
Yeah.
house was quiet and I could do it. And then as the kids got older and I started writing full time, I had different visual cues. Like I like to write with a playlist that's kind of themed to my book. And when the
Oh,
kids would
nice.
see the headphones, they'd come running in with a cat video and they'd go, and they'd see the headphones and go, okay, I'll come back later. You know, so the headphones really
Y
helped to make boundaries.
Noise cancellation,
Yes, yes, a
headphones on,
visual.
not
Yes.
available.
And we had a rule in the house that if you're not on fire and if no one's bleeding, it can wait. And so,
Yeah.
they'd come in for an argument and I'd have to go, is anyone bleeding? No. Is anything on fire? No. When do we talk about this? In an hour.
I think that's so important and so relevant because there's so many women out there, and I know a lot of them listen to this podcast and they, want to build businesses. They want to write books. They have big dreams for themselves, and they also have like 2 or 3 kids often.
Right.
And it's such a juggling act to be a woman in this
It
time,
totally is. Yeah.
working, pursuing dreams, also managing a household, raising children, trying to be present and conscious for all these different, responsibilities in your life, often a partner or wife or,
Right.
having all of these things pulling at your attention. And
Hmm.
I think what you're speaking to is also just creating really good boundaries for yourself. And
Right.
you don't have to be everything to everyone all the time.
Exactly, exactly. And I used to have mom guilt about it. They would leave, and
Mhm.
then I'd feel like,
Oh, yeah.
okay, I should just stop and go fix this. But I stopped doing that because I realized that by making them wait an hour until I'm done, they are also learning to make boundaries for themselves. And as adults,
Mhm.
both of my kids are really good at making a boundary. They
Mhm.
don't
Yeah.
have to answer that text message right now. They're going to do it when
Yeah.
it's convenient for them. And I think, well, they learned that
Mhm.
from me. So I appreciate that. So if you're feeling mom guilt out there, recognize that when
Yeah.
they're older, they're not going to feel guilty about making a boundary.
Yeah.
And that's because of you.
Yeah.
You taught them that. So it's a valuable
Yeah.
skill because so often in the world we live in, having a phone where text messages come through all the time, you could get nothing done ever because you're answering a message and you feel like you need to right now. But
Yep.
they learned from me that, unless someone's bleeding or on fire, everything can wait an hour, really.
Yeah.
So, so they
Totally.
learned that skill so that neither one of them are, feel like the world's going to fall apart if I don't answer this message right now. Or, if I don't run and do all of these things, they can
Mhm.
stay focused on a task. And they learn that from their mom. If you're
Yeah.
constantly dropping everything and putting yourself last, you are teaching your
Mhm.
kids that they need to do the same thing. And you don't have to. Little boundaries with
Yeah.
love.
Little boundaries with love. I love that. Little boundaries with love. And I mean, you need these skills in life. You need it for time management. You
Mhm.
need it for personal space. You need it to be in healthy relationships as well that aren't like super codependent.
Exactly, exactly. It is okay for you to decide that I need to finish this project. I need this much time to do it. And putting yourself first does not make you selfish.
I love that. I think it's so important when we have a business or we're pursuing our own dreams or we're trying to show up for ourselves in
Right.
these ways. You have to put yourself first, and it's
Exactly,
okay.
exactly,
It's
and it's
okay.
okay, you don't even have to feel guilty about it. Yeah,
No, not at all. And the kids figure it out.
they
I mean, I'm
do.
sure your kids by the time an hour passed, they're like, "Ah,
Uh-huh,
whatever,
it
we
was
already sorted it out."
90% of the time, it was already over and forgotten. I take off my headphones, walk in the other room, everyone's fine. So,
Yeah.
maybe it teaches them also to work things out on their own without needing mom to fix it, so
Yeah. All of these are such important skills for life. So
Right.
I love that you've modeled them for your kids.
Yes.
Beautiful. So tell everyone where they can find your books, your deck, your courses, all the things.
Uh, well, the book and the deck are available everywhere. Amazon,
Mhm.
Barnes and Noble, Books a Million. Somebody who found it on the shelves at Books a Million and sent me a picture. I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cool." So anywhere, they're available everywhere. And if you're in the UK, the distributor I think just ordered them, so I think the UK will have them by the end of February. So they're
Great.
everywhere. And you can find my fiction books on my website, authorlisakessler.com. There are lots of them
If
for
you
you
want
to
some
binge read.
hot, steamy vampires and werewolves.
Yes, vampires, werewolves, Greek muses, one demon slayer. There's lots of fun over there. And then if you're interested in manifesting coaching or tarot readings or anything like that, you can find me at metaphysicalmanifesting.com. And I'm on all the social
Amazing. On
medias.
all the places. Perfect. Metaphysical manifesting. And we'll have all of these links in the show notes. And I'm just so happy that we got to connect today.
Me
I feel like
too.
I got a lot of messages from my guides just from our conversation. So
Great.
thank you.
Yay, you're welcome. Thanks for
It
having me
was
on.
really wonderful. And I'm going to get your book because I
Yay.
need to tap into this intuitive tarot
Intuitive
reading.
tarot, it'll change your life.
Wasn't that just the most fun conversation? I really hope that you're taking away some inspiration and ideas around how the tarot can be used as a powerful tool to help you tap into your own intuition and maybe spirit or spirit guides and help to guide you on your path, and how you can read them for yourselves. And if you want to dive deeper, you can always grab Lisa Kessler's book, The Practical Tarot Method. It's a great book and has so many lovely insights and journaling prompts that can help you explore what each of the different cards of the tarot mean for you. And on that note, I hope you're feeling really inspired to jump into that passion project, jump into what's guiding and calling you forward and seeing where it leads. I found that such an inspiring, motivating part of our conversation. And I would love to hear what you're taking away from this conversation today, if it inspired you or has motivated you in a particular way to take action on one of your dreams. We would love to know. So take a screenshot, tag us, or drop me a message at Harmony Slater Official on Instagram. And if you're not already in the Finding Harmony community, come on inside the Finding Harmony community. It's open for our listeners, and there's a link in the show notes. We'd love to have a conversation with you there, and I would love for you to join me in my monthly new moon and full moon meditations online. It's a great way to connect with other listeners and people who care about their spiritual growth and personal development. So come on inside community-harmonyslater.com, and I look forward to connecting with you in whatever way you want to reach out and say hi. That's it. We've concluded another episode of the Finding Harmony podcast. I just want to thank you so much for doing the work that changes the world, starting with yourself. It truly does make a huge difference. Please make sure you have your automatic downloads turned on wherever you listen so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. I have so much more magic I can't wait to share with you. Lastly, if you're on Instagram, I love connecting and hearing from you. So come on over and say hello at Finding Harmony Podcast. And you can also come say hello to me personally at Harmony Slater Official. Thank you again for being here. I cannot wait to share more with you in our next episode.